this New World Order comes from, who they really are, so people don't get confused by all the left cover, right cover, to bring us up to today with Barack Obama, who I agree with you is probably the biggest threat to liberty, only because of the figurehead and the cover he gives them. Not that he actually runs anything, or not that I'm saying McCain's a good guy. So start at the beginning if you can.
And because of the fascist mass movement, or again, reasonable facsimile of a fascist mass movement, which Obama has been able to mobilize, and no other. This is the qualitative distinction. This is why Obama is far and away the worst possible outcome and needs to be opposed in any possible way. I wouldn't call it the New World Order. I called it Anglo-American World Empire, U.S.-British world domination. This is what it is. There are, of course...
But a rose is a rose by any other name, Webster. I hate to interrupt here.
No, but
that's what they call it. It's branded as that. So, yes, world empire, run by the Anglo-American power axis, is the proper term. But, I mean, New World Order is what it's known as.
Well, again, let me call it Anglo-American World Empire, because I think it gets the idea. There are, of course, others that are allied with it. The European Union, the Eurogarchs, are largely submissive to this. Russia is not submissive. I think it makes no sense at all to say Putin and Medvedev now are figures of the New World Order. They are not. They are opponents, as much as they can be, of this Anglo-American world empire. China is in a somewhat more ambiguous position in terms of what you see, but we have reliable reports that underneath it, the Chinese are even more hostile to the continued Anglo-American world domination, and they're biding their time. So I regard these guys. I welcome the existence of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which has posed a counterweight to the U.S. and the British. I would say without Putin, we would have had a police state here already, because it is the existence of this international opposition that prevents the Wall Street group from imposing what they want here. The problem you have right now, the strategic constellation that Obama comes out of, is that we've had the incompetent and disastrous administration of Bush, Cheney, and the neocons. Now, their approach is the world is focused on the Middle East. Everything revolves around Israel. You've got to destroy the leading Arab state. You've got to destroy the leading Islamic state, I guess Iraq and Iran. You've got to go into Afghanistan primarily on an anti-Islamic mission. Brzezinski would say, do go there, but not for that. And therefore, this has been played out now under the bankrupt and idiotic mythology of 9/11, which you've done so much to expose, and some of the rest of us have also tried to do this. The thing is, you're getting to the point of diminishing returns with that. It is simply impossible to keep going with the 9/11 Islamofascism, Bin Laden, Al-Qaeda war on terror. There's even this report from the Rand Corporation where Brzezinski is this, you need something new. Now, it's an interesting case. Normally when people talk about the Hegelian dialectic in politics, I think this is much overstated. The British are really not fair. It's very crude, divide and conquer. But he was a professor trained in Germany. He wrote a book about the 17th century, the age of the Baroque, and with Brzezinski co-authored some books about totalitarianism, targeting, of course, the Soviets, anti-Russian. Alfred Weber. So Alfred Weber is the younger brother of Max Weber, the German sociologist around, from about 1890 to 1920. He was extremely influential. The guy wrote books about the Protestant ethic and all kinds of other things. In Alfred Weber, there is Hegelian philosophy of history elements. So the idea simply is, you cannot be Johnny One Note. You cannot do your operations always under right-wing, militaristic, top-down cover. You've got to modulate that, and we're now in the middle of a modulation. Carter was a similar phase. Carter dropped the usual Cold War stuff, but he continued it in a more ferocious form under the guise of human rights, humanitarianism, and interfering in the internal affairs of countries. Carter was also on a worldwide vendetta to shut down peaceful nuclear energy development, but under left cover, not saying we want you to be puppets of our empire, but saying we don't like nuclear energy. So we reach a point by about 2006, 2007, where the Anglo-American ruling class says Bush and Cheney are crazy, the neocons are bankrupt, we're not getting anywhere. We cannot have the U.S., the British, and the Israelis at war with the world forever. It doesn't work. We're too bankrupt. We're too isolated. Our armies are defeated and demoralized. Our populations are extremely restive. We've got a possible mass upsurge around impeachment and anti-Bush, anti-Cheney, end the war, and all this. So basically they say, let's repeat the Carter operation. They had been grooming Obama, in my view, since about 1981 to 1983, when Obama and Brzezinski were together on the campus of Columbia University, Morningside Heights in Manhattan, and recruited him, as far as I can see. I would hope that that Obama would comment on this if he doesn't like this particular view of his background. But he's one of a series of controlled assets. Deval Patrick of Massachusetts, who spouts the self-same rhetoric, is another one. And there are undoubtedly other options, not all black, to be sure. Others, southern governors or, northern gritty populists or whatever, but all controlled by this trilateral commission. So now the idea is they're basically twofold. If you're going to continue Anglo-American world domination, the U.S., UK world empire, you've got to deal with the fact that you've got this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Russia, China, military power and a tremendous energy power, the Chinese, the greatest demographic power in terms of people, and the highest rates of economic development. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a magnet. It's the counterpole. Anybody who doesn't like the Anglo-Americans, for example, especially in Africa. If you're an African state, you have the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank trying to crush you, destroy you, loot you. The Chinese come along and say, let's make deals 50-50. It's not humanitarianism, but it's business, and it's much better to have an alternative, right, as it was possible during the Cold War. So Brzezinski basically says, we've got to crush Russia and China. How do you do that? Well, it goes like this. First, kick the Chinese out of Africa. That's why you've got the U.S. African Command. You've got the destabilization of Kenya by Obama's cousin, Odinga, who is I call him the killer Luo. He's the necklacer of Kenya. The Luos, by the way, with the Luos, it's a little bit like the Kurds. You can destabilize Kenya, Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, and Congo. You can destabilize 5 countries using these Luos that Obama happens to represent. So you've got to kick the Chinese out. The interest in Zimbabwe is, of course, that's where the Chinese get their minerals. So the U.S. and the British say, oh, it's a humanitarian emergency. Mugabe is a bad man. Let's get rid of him. Real reason, Chinese minerals. Sudan, the best example, the biggest country in Africa, that's about 7% of the Chinese oil. Therefore, the Anglo-Americans gin up this Darfur crisis, which is real, but not created by the Sudanese government. It's partly a feature of the world oil price and starvation and so forth going on there. The first phase, therefore, is try to destroy every Chinese ally you can in Africa, kick the Chinese out, cut off the oil and the minerals, destroy places like Burma, Chinese ally, and destroy Pakistan. Carve Pakistan into 4 to 5 pieces. Even though the current government of Pakistan is Anglo-American puppets, the conducting of the Afghan war is now only targeting, really, Pakistan, bombing Pakistan, humiliating the government, and preparing the breakup of that country. Why? It is a natural ally of China against India, always has been, and it's an important commercial partner. The end game is, once you've got China stripped of allies and isolated, Brzezinski says to the Chinese, look, you want oil, you want minerals, go and get them in Siberia. Go to war with Russia, invade Siberia, and you can get everything you want. Siberia has lots of minerals, lots of oil, very few Russians. Let's have World War III. Now, it means, therefore, play China against Russia, destroy them both, get rid of them both, and the U.S. and the British can have another 100 years of world domination. This is exactly the same project we had with Lady Astor, Lord Astor, the Cliveden set in Britain.
It's the great game of divide and conquer, simply put.
Lord Lothian, Lord Halifax, Lord Brand, Prescott Bush, John Foster Dulles, Lord Montague Norman of the Bank of England, Sir Henry Dieterding of Royal Dutch Shell, and they basically said, we'll call this appeasement, but it's not appeasement, it's war. Let's build up Hitler, and we'll point him east. will encourage him to go east.
And that's all on record with Lord Milner and the Milner Group and the rest
absolutely.
of them.
That's exactly it. The Milner Group is the Cliveden set. That's